It's now my pleasure to introduce board member Jeff Chambers from Myrtle Beach, and he's going to introduce our keynote speaker. So, Jeff.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Chambers, and I thank you all for being here today. Today is a huge honor for me. I am introducing our keynote speaker who I worked for and have the highest level of respect for, and that is our Lieutenant Governor Henry McMaster. Mr. McMaster has had a long history of service in the state of South Carolina. He went to college here at USC, graduated from the law school at USC. In the 80s, he was the U.S. District Attorney for South Carolina for 4 years. For many, many years, he was the chairman of the Republican Party. He's been on the Ports Authority Board, the Commission for Higher Education. Many of you knew of him through his role as the state Attorney General, and that is where I worked for him. While he was there, he was very supportive of the patient population that our clinics serve, and constructed many settlements with pharmaceutical companies to benefit the work that we do through our clinics. He was there for 8 years. Now he's our 91st Lieutenant Governor, and it is my absolute honor to introduce Mr. Henry Dargan.
Thank you. Everybody needs a good stretch. Okay. Well, I'm delighted to be here because I've got something to say. People ask me all the time, say, you make these speeches? I'm scared to death to make speeches. They say that the thing that people fear the most out of all of them, you think tall buildings, no. Snakes, no. Death, no. Making a public speech, yes, and always at the top of the list. Well, I figured out the secret. If you got something to say, there ain't nothing to it. So I got something to say. And, this is a perfect group for me to speak about these things to, and also I hope that you will send us some ideas. Where's Christy Quattrone? Stand up there and look at you, please. Christy works in the office with me. She's the Deputy Chief of Staff. We are looking for ideas, looking for answers, and the main thing we're looking for is collaboration. What I've learned over the years, Jeff, and the places I've been and things I've seen is most of the things can be done with collaboration and cooperation, and it don't cost much money. Here's some news. If we are waiting for the government, either the state or federal, to solve these problems, we're going to have a long, long wait, because there's never going to be enough money. Presiding over the Senate, we have a lot of debates about money, and the people in the Senate are very emphatic about how their thing needs money, or this thing needs money. Roads need money. Everything needs money. There will never, write this down somebody, there will never be enough money, never be, to do all the things that need to be done in the state. The good news is, it's not necessary. And this, what you do, is a perfect example of why it's not necessary. And I would just be willing to bet, if you were to examine the percentage of waste, fraud, and abuse that we hear about in our federal government and compare that to the amount of waste, fraud, and abuse we find in these organizations and operations, it'd be a ton against a zero. And that's because what you're doing is efficient, and you're doing it with volunteers. Everybody's there for the right reason. I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute, but there's just a few points that I'd like you to take home with you, and thank you for inviting me to be here. That was a delicious food here. Well, that's delicious. This hotel's doing okay. Y'all heard the one about the young couple got married. Neither one of them talked very much. They just bumped into each other one day, forward and long, and he said, "I love you, baby." She said, "I love you too, so let's get married." So they did. And didn't talk much, found a little house, moved in, it suited them just fine. They got very happy. Then before long, a mom-in-law moved in with them. Well, like I say, they didn't talk much, they just went right along. Finally, after about 2 months, the young groom says to his blushing young bride, says, "Baby, don't you think it's about time we find your mama someplace else to live?" She said, "My mama, I thought she was your mama." You see, we got to communicate. Got to communicate. And there's not nearly enough of it. The lieutenant governor in this state is in charge of the Office on Aging. That is a coordinating type of a body. We have a staff of about 40 in the ideology building. The main part of the State House part is over in the State House, which, by the way, I think we have the most beautiful State House in the whole world. And if you haven't been up there to look at it and really appreciate it since you've become an adult, you ought to go look at it. It is a magnificent structure. But we have a small staff there, and over in the archaeology building, where most of the staff have about 40 people over there. Now, we work with the 10 area offices on aging that correspond roughly to the COGs that are out there, 10 area COGs, councils on government in the state. And what I've learned in almost 2 years there in that office is the coordination and collaboration that goes on in our state would, if we had more of it, it would greatly enhance everything we do. And as I say, it doesn't cost money. So one thing we're trying to do is to get a website that's got everything on there. So if your parents or a friend, a neighbor, or someone is elderly, which is what the Office on Aging works with, and needs some help of some kind, you can go to one place and it'll be easy to use, colorful, have everything listed, all the assets that are around the state, and you'll be able to find them so easy, because there are many of them, but the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And there's duplications there that we're missing a lot of the power that we would have, not only in that area, but all others, I think, if we would just communicate more and collaborate more. That's why it's so good to see all of you from, 47 clinics, total of 41 in 47 locations, and most everybody that has a clinic is in the association. That's a very good thing. So my compliments. And I know nobody's getting rich here that is drawing a paycheck from working there, and I'm certain the volunteers aren't. So for that reason, again, I thank you, because there's nothing more important than the health of our people. Our people are the best, the strongest asset we have in this state. Our people are different. Everything about us is different. And I'm so proud of our people, all that we've done over the years, what we've built, what we've come through, what we've endured, how we've prospered, how we've fallen over the years. It is a marvelous story, and there's not another one like it in the whole country. And if you have any doubt about that, go ask Walter Edgar, because he wrote a big old book on it, and it'll make you so proud when you see all that we've done, what we've endured, and how far we've come. And everything that was here at the beginning is here now. And let me just mention briefly what is so different about South Carolina besides the people. Number one, we have 3 major research universities. Major research universities, that's good in itself. Some other states have 3, some have more than that, but they don't work together. Ours work together, and not only do they happily work together, which gives them enormous firepower, but they also collaborate with private companies. And just in this city, over on Assembly Street, IBM has their international data analytics headquarters on the corner of Blossom and Assembly Street. Data analytics is a big deal these days. You take all this data and you can determine patterns in all sorts of things, from human behavior to parts of automobiles wearing out years in advance. Also, the Boeing, one of the finest companies in the world, recently gave several $1 million to the University of South Carolina for their aeronautical engineering department. And what is different about that is the students and professors there work with those people, not on diagrams and plastic models, but actual pieces of airplane. The only one in the United States to be doing that. And did you know that the tallest loblolly pine in the whole America is in the Congaree Forest at 169 feet? Who knew that? Nobody. So the universities, technical colleges, everybody knows we got the best technical college system in the whole country. It started years ago, it works, they're in 16 locations, and we've got companies that move here because they know that they can get the workers that they need through the technical college. It's a fantastic asset. What else do we have? We have a magnificent port, the Port of Charleston, a smaller one in Georgetown. But the Port of Charleston is just blowing everybody's socks off. It is an amazing facility. The turnaround time on one of those tractor trailers coming in with the containers on it and leaving in Charleston is 26 minutes. Los Angeles, 2.5, 3 hours. New York, New Jersey, 3 or 4 hours. I mean, they're just rocking down there. And not only that, but we have a regular harbor. Our friends in Savannah, this is a beautiful place. Their port is up the river. One-way traffic, not so deep. Not us. It's deep and getting deeper. Our leadership has already put up 300 and something million to get it dredged out. And when it does, that means that those ships, the big ships, that the Panama Canal was stretched out, made deeper and wider to accommodate, and they are huge, will be able to come in, pass each other, going each way 24 hours a day. Instead of now, they can only do it at high tide. But they'll be able before long when we get through with it. And they say, the experts say, that the Port of Charleston and the Port of New York, New Jersey, in 15 or 20 years will be the 2 dominant ports on the Atlantic coast. Do you know how you spell port? M-O-N-E-Y. That's how you spell it. And not only that, if that's not enough, we have one inland port in Greer. Somebody said first time we started talking about that, they said, where's the river that goes from Charleston to Greer? There is no river that does that. What a railroad track does, Norfolk Southern line. By the way, the beginning of that line from Charleston going up used to go over to Hamburg. That is the oldest rail passenger service in the United States. The best friend of Charleston, 1831. So we just full of all sorts of things we did before everybody else even thought of them. And we have the inland port in Greer. That means that these big trucks coming in from I-85, north and south, can come in, can unload there. They put it on the train. It'll go down that night. Train will load up, bring stuff back the next day, go back and forth, back and forth. And that means that someone driving that truck, coming down from wherever, can unload there in Greer, load back up with something else, go on about his business, and save 400 miles down to Charleston and back. That's time, that's money, that's a great thing. And just recently, the port announced that we're opening another inland port in Dillon County on I-95. There's not another state that can touch it. There are 2 or 3 that have what they call inland ports, but they're nothing like this, and most of them, I think, are primarily for just coal or just something else. So there you go, a port. And you can't build that. And that's either there or it's not. That's been there from the very beginning. And speaking of that, all the explorers, starting with the Spanish in 1540-something when they were coming over here, and the French and the English and everybody else, all of them are writing back to their sovereigns, and what were they saying as they were exploring this land, this new continent? They were saying there's no place else we've ever seen that has the natural resources that this place, which they were started later calling Carolina, does. And all those natural resources are still here. Y'all remember Christy Todd Whitman, who was the head of the EPA for a while, and before that was governor of New Jersey for 8 years. I was attending a conference, and she was speaking, and we were standing by the window in the AT&T building then, looking out south towards the football stadium and all the green and everything. And I said something like, "This sure is a pretty place, isn't it? Don't you just love this?" She says, "It is really beautiful. I hope you don't mess it up." So that's our job, is not to mess it up. Do no harm to this wonderful environment that we have inherited. What else do we have? We got plenty of electric power. Lights ain't going off here, BA. They staying on. People at the power companies will tell you that they have people all over the place calling, looking to do business somewhere in the country, and they call in South Carolina, they want to know if we have a steady, reliable source of inexpensive power. And the answer is yes. We've got 7 nuclear reactors, 2 more coming on. The first 2 have been built in 30 years. As long as they're safe, they're 100% clean, and we're going to have plenty of power. And it goes on and on. But we have all of those things. The main thing we have, though, back where I started, is our people. We are different. And there's just no denying it. Every state, every region has a sort of a culture. And you go up to New England, they talk different, they look different. All my friends, when they come to South Carolina, say, I can always tell when I'm in South Carolina. How you tell? Say, well, I go to the restaurant, between placing my order and getting my bill, the waitress will call me honey, sweetie, darling, and dear. I know I'm in South Carolina. And you know, I think we're quadrilingual. We speak English, redneck, Gullah, and Southern in South Carolina. Y'all, we're different. And people all over the world, when we had that terrible tragedy in Charleston, Mother Emanuel, people noticed how the people of South Carolina responded. And people are noticing now, including us, how we're responding to our neighbors in these floods. 2 floods in just a year, isn't that something? And high water hadn't even hit yet over in the PD. So we're different, and we have big hearts, we are good neighbors, and what you're doing is a perfect manifestation of that. The one thing I would ask you to do for me is this. Think about it and determine ways that we can build some sort of a collaboration, and maybe you have one, maybe this association is the group to do it. But in reading some materials, it said that 20% of our health status depends on the hospitals, nurses, the doctors, and all of that. But 80% depends on social determinants. What are social determinants? Nutrition, housing, transportation, and economic status, which means jobs, unless you inherited a bunch of money and don't need a job. So what do all those things have in common? If you have a thriving economy, if you have smart government policies, you have to have some government regulation on things and laws, rules to go by. But if you encourage the people and you let the people collaborate and build, and you have the smart policies that produce and allow a thriving economy to grow, then most of the problems we got go away. And that's why with these other assets that I mentioned, from the port to the institutions to the technical colleges to the weather, for the potential for agriculture, all of those things, no other state has that. And that will build prosperity for all of our people for many, many generations, if we just stick together, use our heads, and marshal those assets together and talk to each other and see how we can work better. I bet you there are bar associations that have not been asked to have a post a telephone number in some of your clinics. So if someone comes to see you and they have a legal problem, and say, call this number. I don't know if that's being done. I expect it is in some places. But that's something like that ought to be. Does everyone have the workforce number, the Department of Workforce, and know what kind of jobs, what kind of help that they can give? Are there local institutions that can provide psychiatric counseling? We've got telemedicine. That's one of the best things I've seen lately. You can have specialists from all over the world talk to you for very inexpensively. But your clinics are a perfect place to get the right kind of information to see what sort of problems these folks who need a little bit of help need. Nobody, you might go to your lawyer and not tell him the truth, or you might go to somebody else and not tell them the truth, but when you're hurting and you need some medicine, need some help, you're going to tell them what's wrong with you usually, and a lot of other things as well. So you're in a position to get a good feel and understanding of some of the folks that are in our state who really need help. And what I've discovered, if you give folks a little bit of help, give them a little bit of confidence and point them a little bit in the right direction, before you know it, they'll be on their own and be doing well. So I applaud you for what you've done. I think it is a great thing. It is, you're being a good neighbor, and that's what you're supposed to do. And any way that I can help, I hope you let me know. And I am real serious. If there's anything that I can do to help you form some sort of collaboration, whether it's formal or informal, with all these other entities who are out there, from lawyers to doctors to social workers to counselors to people looking for employees to the tech schools, or anything, you think it up and we'll work on it and try to get it done. And thank you very much. I appreciate you having me here. Thank you.